Begin by simply listening. Slow down. See just how peaceful today can be. Greetings, children. I am your host, your obedient servant, Sebastian St. Smalls. You're killing me, Smalls. Vincent Twice. You can always call me Bennett. The plan for this one is a new Sherlock Holmes adventure, The Case of the Gilded Gargoyle. Written with a lot of assistance from ChatGPT4 and Elden Ring. Thanks so much for swinging by. Wish us luck.
Starting notebook settings window. Asterisk ChatGPT. Sherlock Holmes, The Case of the Gilded Gargoyle. Generated by one ChatGPT4 based on Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Dr. John Watson sat in the cozy living room of 221B Baker Street quietly reading the morning newspaper. The soft rustle of the pages and the occasional crackle of the fireplace provided a gentle ambience that Watson had grown to appreciate. Holmes, however, was nowhere to be seen, undoubtedly lost in thought in his bedroom upstairs. As Watson flipped to the next page, he noticed an envelope on the side table, its pristine white surface contrasting sharply with the clutter surrounding it. Curious, Watson picked up the envelope, noting that it was addressed to Sherlock Holmes. The envelope bore no return address, and the handwriting was elegant and ornate. Watson hesitated for a moment before deciding to open it. As he pulled out the contents, he found a single sheet of paper, adorned with the same graceful handwriting. Mr. Holmes, it read, I believe you are the only one who can help me uncover the truth behind the Gilded Gargoyle. Time is of the essence, and the safety of the monarchy may depend on it. I trust you will give this matter your utmost attention. Intrigued, Watson called for Holmes, who appeared at the top of the stairs almost immediately, a curious expression on his face. Ah, Watson, what have you got there? Holmes asked, descending the stairs with swift, cat-like grace. Watson handed the letter to his friend, who read it with great interest, his eyes narrowing as he took in the words on the page. He then proceeded to examine the paper and envelope, sniffing them and holding them up to the light. And Holmes mused, the ink is fresh, and the scent of the paper suggests it was purchased at a stationery shop not far from here. Our mysterious correspondent is both well-educated and well-funded, but why the urgency and secrecy? Holmes handed the letter back to Watson and began to pace the room, his hands clasped behind his back. Watson watched him, knowing that the gears of Holmes' brilliant mind were already turning, trying to decipher the enigma before them. The following day found Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler standing before an upscale art gallery, its large windows displaying an array of beautiful and exotic works. The gallery had been closed for a private event the previous night, and Holmes deduced that the event was somehow connected to the Gilded Gargoyle. As they entered, Holmes and Watson exchanged a glance. It was unusual for Irene Adler to be involved in one of their cases, but her expertise in the art world was undeniable. The unlikely trio approached the gallery owner, a distinguished-looking gentleman with a neatly trimmed beard and an air of sophistication. Good morning, Mr. Pembroke Adler, Adler said confidently, extending her hand. I am Irene Adler, and these are my associates, Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. We're investigating a matter concerning a piece you may be familiar with, the Gilded Gargoyle. Mr. Pembroke's eyes widened in surprise, and he ushered them into his private office. Please, come in. I had heard rumors of the Gilded Gargoyle, but I never imagined it would bring the famous Mr. Holmes to my gallery. As they settled into the plush chairs provided by Mr. Pembroke, Holmes wasted no time. We understand there was a private event here last night. Can you provide us with any information about the attendees and the nature of the event? Mr. Pembroke hesitated for a moment before answering. It was a gathering of esteemed collectors and art enthusiasts, many of whom are friends of mine. The event's purpose was to display a new collection of rare and valuable artifacts that I've acquired, including the Gilded Gargoyle. Irene Adler leaned forward, her eyes keen. Can you describe the Gilded Gargoyle to us, Mr. Pembroke? Certainly, he replied. It's a small, ornate sculpture, expertly crafted from gold and adorned with precious gems. It is said to have been part of a royal collection many years ago. The gargoyle's history is shrouded in mystery, and its whereabouts have been unknown for some time. I was fortunate enough to obtain it through a private sale. Holmes nodded, taking in the information. And did anything unusual occur during the event? Mr. Pembroke looked uncomfortable. Well, there was one incident. During the evening, the gentleman I didn't recognize approached me and inquired about the Gilded Gargoyle. He seemed rather persistent, and I felt uneasy. When I refused to discuss the matter further, he left abruptly. Do you recall anything about his appearance? Watson asked. He was a tall, thin man with dark hair and a distinctive scar on his left cheek, Pembroke replied. Holmes exchanged a knowing glance with Watson. The description matched that of one of Moriarty's known associates. The plot was beginning to thicken. Later that day, Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler paid a visit to the residence of Inspector Lestrade. Lestrade, a longtime friend and colleague of Holmes, was well versed in the criminal underbelly of London and would likely have information on Moriarty's recent activities. Holmes, Watson, Miss Adler. Lestrade greeted them, shaking their hands. What brings you to my humble abode? The Gilded Gargoyle, Holmes replied succinctly, and Lestrade's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson learn about a mysterious and valuable artifact called the Gilded Gargoyle that has gone missing. Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler visit the home of the wealthy art collector, Mr. Pembroke, to learn more about the Gilded Gargoyle and the event where it disappeared. The trio consults with Inspector Lestrade, who may have information about Moriarty's involvement in the theft of the Gilded Gargoyle. The following day, Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler met with Inspector Lestrade at Scotland Yard. Lestrade, who was initially surprised by the unlikely alliance of the trio, soon understood the gravity of the situation when he was informed about the missing Gilded Gargoyle and the potential involvement of Moriarty. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, Miss Adler, it's not often we see such a remarkable team gathered in one place, Lestrade said as he shook their hands. Regarding Moriarty, we've been investigating some suspicious activities in the city lately, and there's a chance that the theft of the Gilded Gargoyle is connected. Lestrade led them to a large table covered in papers, maps, and photographs. He pointed to a series of seemingly unrelated events, a break-in at a museum, assault on a prominent art dealer, and the mysterious disappearance of a skilled craftsman known for restoring ancient artifacts. These events may seem unrelated, but I have reason to believe they are all pieces of a larger puzzle, one that Moriarty is orchestrating, Lestrade explained. And the theft of the Gilded Gargoyle might be the key to understanding his ultimate plan. Holmes nodded thoughtfully, his sharp eyes scanning the evidence laid out before him. I concur, Lestrade. There's a pattern here, one that suggests a larger scheme at work. We must tread carefully, for we are not only dealing with a mastermind but also a dangerous adversary who will not hesitate to eliminate any obstacles in his path. With Lestrade's information in mind, Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler set out to unravel the mystery of the Gilded Gargoyle and Moriarty's involvement in its disappearance. As the investigation continued, Holmes decided it was crucial to speak with the curator of the museum where the Gilded Gargoyle was stolen. Accompanied by Watson and Irene Adler, they paid a visit to the prestigious establishment. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the museum's curator, a tall, nervous man named Mr. Humphreys. He led them to his office, where they discussed the night of the theft. The Gilded Gargoyle was kept in a room with other priceless artifacts, under strict security measures, Mr. Humphreys explained, wringing his hands. We have no idea how the thief managed to bypass our security system and steal the artifact. Holmes carefully examined the room from which the Gilded Gargoyle had been taken, noticing a subtle but distinct scratch on the floor near the display case. He turned to Mr. Humphreys, asking if the scratch had been there before the theft. No, Mr. Holmes, that scratch wasn't there before, the curator replied, startled. What could it mean? Holmes remained quiet for a moment, mulling over the possible implications of this new clue. He then asked Mr. Humphreys about the craftsman who had disappeared, inquiring if the man had any connections to the museum or the Gilded Gargoyle. The craftsman, Mr. Davenport, was a dear friend of mine, Mr. Humphreys admitted. He occasionally worked on restoring pieces in our collection. He was a true genius, and his disappearance has been deeply troubling. With this information in hand, Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler left the museum, determined to find the connection between the missing craftsman, the stolen Gilded Gargoyle, and Moriarty's possible involvement in the case. The trio returned to Baker Street to discuss their findings and plan their next move. Holmes, deep in thought, paced the room while Watson and Irene Adler looked on. It is clear that there is a connection between the theft of the Gilded Gargoyle, the disappearance of Mr. Davenport, and Moriarty's possible involvement, Holmes stated. We must delve deeper into the backgrounds of both Mr. Davenport and Mr. Humphreys, the curator, to discern if there are any hidden connections between them and Moriarty. Irene Adler, ever resourceful, volunteered to look into Mr. Humphreys' past, while Watson was tasked with investigating Mr. Davenport's background. Holmes, meanwhile, would continue to examine the clues they had gathered thus far. As Watson delved into the life of Mr. Davenport, he discovered that the craftsman had been involved in some shady dealings in the past. It seemed that he had accumulated a considerable amount of debt due to his gambling habits. Moreover, Watson found evidence of threats from an unknown source, demanding repayment of the debt. Meanwhile, Irene Adler's investigation into Mr. Humphreys revealed that the museum curator had a brother who had once been arrested for his involvement in an organized crime syndicate. Previously, this syndicate was known to have ties to Moriarty's criminal empire. With With this newfound information, Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler reconvened at Baker Street to compare notes and discuss their next course of action. It was becoming clear that the case of the Gilded Gargoyle was far more complex and dangerous than they had initially anticipated. As the trio discussed the latest revelations, Lestrade arrived at Baker Street, eager to share new information regarding the case. Mr. Holmes, he said, I've just received word that an anonymous tipster has informed us that the Gilded Gargoyle can be found at an underground auction house tonight. Apparently, the auction will be attended by some of London's most notorious criminals, including some of Moriarty's associates. Holmes, realizing the gravity of the situation, devised a plan. Lestrade, you must organize a raid on the auction house tonight. Irene, Watson, and I will accompany you undercover. It is imperative that we recover the Gilded Gargoyle and apprehend any of Moriarty's accomplices in the process. As night fell, the group, now dressed in disguise, entered the dimly lit auction house alongside Lestrade's officers. The air was thick with tension as the auction began, with various illicit items being presented and bid upon by the nefarious attendees. Finally, the Gilded Gargoyle was unveiled, and the bidding commenced. Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler exchanged glances, awaiting Lestrade's signal to initiate the raid. As the bids for the gargoyle escalated, Lestrade gave the signal, and the officers sprang into action. Chaos erupted in the auction house as Lestrade's men arrested the criminals, while Holmes, Watson, and Irene Adler focused on recovering the Gilded Gargoyle. In the midst of the chaos, Irene Adler skillfully slipped through the crowd and made her way to the stage where the Gilded Gargoyle was displayed. As she reached for the precious artifact, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was one of Moriarty's henchmen, a man known as Sebastian Moran. Moran sneered at Irene. You think you're clever, don't you, miss? Adler. But you won't be leaving with the gargoyle tonight. Meanwhile, Holmes and Watson were busy apprehending other criminals in the room. Noticing the confrontation between Irene and Moran, Holmes shouted to Watson, Watson, assist Irene. I'll join you shortly. Watson rushed to Irene's aid, engaging Moran in a fierce struggle. Irene took the opportunity to grab the Gilded Gargoyle and secure it in a satchel. With the artifact in their possession, they fought their way through the remaining criminals and regrouped with Holmes and Lestrade. Together, they made a hasty exit from the auction house, the Gilded Gargoyle in hand. As they caught their breath in a nearby alley, Holmes examined the artifact closely. The craftsmanship is exquisite, he mused. But we mustn't waste any time. We need to determine the significance of this artifact and why Moriarty's associates were so keen on obtaining it. The team, along with Mrs. Hudson, gathered in the familiar sitting room at 221B Baker Street. Holmes carefully inspected the Gilded Gargoyle, searching for any hidden compartments or markings. Irene, Lestrade, and Watson anxiously watched, waiting for Holmes to uncover the artifact's secrets. After what felt like an eternity, Holmes' eyes lit up with excitement. I believe I have found something, he exclaimed, revealing a small, hidden compartment within the gargoyle. Inside the compartment was a rolled up piece of parchment. Holmes unrolled it, revealing a cryptic message. From fiery depths, the dragon's breath, the treasure sought by none but death. The crown's demise, the kingdom's fall, when shadows cast on regal walls. Holmes studied the parchment intently, while the others looked on with concern. It appears to be a riddle, likely connected to the gargoyle and the threat to the monarchy he mused. she said. Something dangerous enough to threaten the monarchy itself. Holmes nodded in agreement. Precisely, Miss Adler. It is our duty to decipher this riddle and uncover the truth before Moriarty can use it for his nefarious purposes. Over the next few days, the group tirelessly worked to solve the riddle, researching and discussing possible interpretations. Watson and Lestrade focused on the historical context, while Irene and Holmes analyzed the language and symbolism. Late one evening, Irene and Holmes sat hunched over a map of London, deep in thought. This mention of fiery depths could be a reference to the Great Fire of London, Irene suggested. Perhaps the treasure was buried in the ashes, hidden from those who would use it for evil. Holmes considered the idea, tapping his pipe against the map. A plausible theory, Miss Adler. However, the Great Fire took place over 2 centuries ago. The artifact and riddle must have been created after that event, otherwise the threat to the monarchy would have already been realized. As the discussion continued, Watson's eyes fell upon a book about the history of the British Crown. He flipped through the pages, searching for any mention of a lost treasure or relic. Finally, he found a passage detailing a legend about a powerful artifact that could bring about the downfall of the monarchy. Watson shared his discovery with the others, and their excitement grew. The legend spoke of a powerful weapon, forged in the fires of a dragon's breath, that was hidden away after being deemed too dangerous for any one person to possess. This weapon, known as the Dragon's Breath, was said to be capable of toppling even the mightiest of kingdoms. Could this be the treasure mentioned in the riddle? Lestrade asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Holmes nodded, his eyes locked on the parchment. It seems likely, Inspector. If Moriarty is after the Dragon's Breath, we must find it before he does. The safety of the monarchy, and perhaps even the world, depends on it. The following day, Holmes decided it was time to involve Molly Hooper, the trusted friend and skilled pathologist at St. Bartholomew's Hospital. Her extensive knowledge of anatomy and her access to medical resources might prove invaluable in their search for the Gilded Gargoyle. Holmes sent a message to Molly, requesting her assistance. When she arrived at Baker Street, the group filled her in on the details of the case, the riddle, and the Dragon's Breath. Intrigued and eager to help, Molly listened carefully and offered her insights. It's possible the gargoyle could be hidden within a crypt or tomb, she suggested. Many of the older cemeteries in London have elaborate carvings and statues, and a gargoyle might easily blend in among them. Holmes agreed, and together the group began to research London's cemeteries, focusing on those with a history of unusual or ornate carvings. They narrowed their search to a handful of locations that warranted further investigation. Setting out in pairs, they explored the cemeteries, scrutinizing every statue, crypt, and monument for any sign of the Gilded Gargoyle. Their search proved challenging, as the gargoyle's gold had likely been tarnished or concealed over time, making it difficult to spot. Finally, after days of searching, Irene and Watson discovered a promising lead in Highgate Cemetery. Hidden in a remote corner, a weathered gargoyle perched atop an ancient tombstone caught their attention. The gargoyle's features were twisted and grotesque, its once golden wings now covered in layers of moss and grime. Could this be the Gilded Gargoyle they had been searching for? Only further investigation would reveal the truth. As Holmes, Watson, Lestrade, and Molly Hooper examined the gargoyle and pondered the implications of the mysterious Dragon's Breath, an unexpected figure appeared in the doorway of 221B Baker Street. It was none other than Irene Adler, the woman who had bested Holmes in the past and earned his admiration. "I see you've found the gargoyle," she said, her voice cool and confident. "I've been following this case from afar, and I believe I can offer some assistance in uncovering the truth behind the dragon's breath." Holmes regarded her warily but knew that her intelligence and resourcefulness would prove invaluable in their investigation. With a nod of agreement, he welcomed her into their group. Irene shared her findings, explaining that she had been tracking a network of criminals who seemed to have ties to the mysterious organization behind the dragon's breath. This organization, she revealed, was likely connected to Moriarty's criminal empire, which had continued to operate in the shadows even after his demise. As they pieced together the information, it became clear that the gargoyle and the dragon's breath were part of a larger conspiracy. One that threatened not only the monarchy but also the very foundations of law and order in London. Working together, the group, now including Irene Adler, set out to unravel the mystery and bring the conspirators to justice. With each new clue they uncovered, the stakes grew higher, and the danger more imminent. But with their combined skills and determination, they pressed on, determined to foil the sinister plot and restore peace to the city. As the group continued their investigation, it became evident that they would need to work late into the night. Irene Adler and Molly Hooper, having formed a bond over their shared experiences with Sherlock and their involvement in the case, decided to have a sleepover at Molly's flat. Once they had settled in for the night, the two women found solace in each other's company, sharing stories about their lives and the challenges they had faced. The atmosphere was warm and comforting, and the implicit understanding between them brought a sense of security and support. At one point during their conversation, Molly's emotions got the better of her. With tears in her eyes, she confided in Irene about the mixed feelings she had experienced throughout the case, particularly as it pertained to Sherlock. Irene listened attentively, offering words of wisdom and understanding. As they continued to discuss the case, Irene and Molly began to connect the dots, uncovering new perspectives and potential leads. Their combined insights strengthened their resolve to help bring the conspirators to justice. The night wore on, and eventually, the two women drifted off to sleep, finding comfort in their newfound friendship. They slept side by side, their closeness a testament to the bond they had formed during the course of the investigation. The following morning, Irene and Molly joined Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade at 221B Baker Street to share their insights from the previous night. As the group gathered around the table, it was clear that the atmosphere had changed. There was a sense of camaraderie and unity among them. Molly began by recounting the conversation she and Irene had shared, highlighting the emotional aspects of the case and the impact it had on all those involved. Her vulnerability resonated with the others, reminding them that behind the crime solving, there were real people with real emotions.
I'm tired.
Irene then revealed the new leads and perspectives they had uncovered during their discussion. Together, they had pieced together a clearer picture of the conspiracy and had identified potential weak points in the enemy's plan. The group listened intently as Irene laid out the new information, making connections and refining their strategy. Sherlock was visibly impressed with the progress Irene and Molly had made, and he acknowledged their contributions with gratitude. He knew that their combined efforts had brought them closer to solving the case of the Gilded Gargoyle. With renewed determination, the group set off to follow the new leads, each member contributing their unique skills and insights to the investigation. They were united in their quest for justice, working together as a formidable team to unravel the conspiracy that threatened the safety of the monarchy. As the group studied the new evidence, Watson noticed a pattern emerging in the coded messages they had deciphered. It seems that the conspirators have a network of operatives working across the city, he observed. Look at these locations. They're scattered throughout London, but there's a clear hub of activity around the docks. Sherlock, intrigued by Watson's observation, added, yes, and it's likely that the docks are being used to smuggle in the materials necessary for their plan. We need to investigate further. Lestrade nodded, then turned to Irene. Miss Adler, what do you make of the names mentioned in these messages? Are any of them familiar to you? Irene looked thoughtful as she scanned the list of names. Some of them ring a faint bell, but it's hard to say without more context. However, one name stands out, Lord Redwood. He's been involved in a number of high-profile scandals lately, and I've heard whispers of his connections to criminal enterprises. Sherlock raised an eyebrow, clearly interested in this new development. Lord Redwood, you say? We should pay him a visit. It's possible he's a key player in this conspiracy. Molly chimed in, her eyes bright with excitement. I might be able to help with that. I have access to some medical records that could potentially give us more insight into Lord Redwood's activities. I'll gather what I can and meet you at his residence. With a plan in place, the group divided their tasks and set out to pursue their leads. Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade would confront Lord Redwood, while Irene and Molly gathered additional information to bolster their case. As they left Baker Street, the team knew they were one step closer to uncovering the truth behind the Gilded Gargoyle and the conspiracy that threatened the monarchy. Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade arrived at Lord Redwood's opulent residence, prepared to question him about his potential involvement in the conspiracy. As they were ushered into his study, they found the man himself, a tall, imposing figure with a neatly trimmed beard, awaiting them. Ah, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, and Inspector Lestrade. Lord Redwood greeted them with a sly smile. To what do I owe this unexpected visit? We have reason to believe you may be involved in a criminal conspiracy, Lord Redwood. Sherlock stated bluntly. One that threatens the very foundations of the monarchy. Lord Redwood scoffed, feigning ignorance. Conspiracy. Monarchy. I'm afraid you've lost me, Mr. Holmes. I have nothing to do with such matters. But Watson interjected, we've found your name mentioned in a series of coded messages related to the Gilded Gargoyle, the symbol of a dangerous plot against the crown. Lestrade added, we're giving you the opportunity to come clean, Lord Redwood. We're prepared to take this information to the proper authorities if you don't cooperate. At this, Lord Redwood's expression darkened, and his facade of ignorance crumbled. Very well, he said, his voice icy. But know this, I am but a small part of a much larger plan. Even if you stop me, you cannot stop what is coming. Sherlock, not one to be intimidated, narrowed his eyes and replied, we'll see about that. Now, tell us everything you know, or we'll have no choice but to take matters into our own hands. As Lord Redwood began to divulge details of the conspiracy, Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade listened intently, aware that the information they were receiving could be the key to dismantling the entire operation and protecting the monarchy from the looming threat. As Lord Redwood continued to reveal the inner workings of the conspiracy, Sherlock's pocket vibrated. He discreetly removed a small folded piece of paper from his pocket and read its contents. His eyes widened, and he quickly hid the message from the others. Watson noticed Sherlock's sudden change in demeanor and inquired, "What is it, Holmes? What does the message say?" Sherlock hesitated for a moment before divulging the contents. "It's a message from Moriarty. He's been watching us closely, and he's warning us not to interfere any further." Lestrade's brow furrowed in concern. "What does that mean for our investigation? Are we in danger?" Sherlock considered the implications. Moriarty is a master manipulator, and this message is undoubtedly meant to unnerve us. However, it also means he's feeling threatened by our progress. Lord Redwood, overhearing the conversation, chimed in. "You cannot possibly hope to outsmart Moriarty. He is always one step ahead. You should heed his warning, lest you meet a grisly end." But Sherlock was undeterred. "Moriarty's involvement only strengthens our resolve. We will continue to unravel this conspiracy and bring everyone involved to justice, including Moriarty himself." With that, Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade left Lord Redwood's residence, now more determined than ever to expose the truth behind the Gilded Gargoyle and thwart Moriarty's nefarious plans. Back at Baker Street, Sherlock, Watson, Irene, and Molly gathered in the sitting room to discuss their next move. Irene shared her experience with Molly and the emotional conversation they had shared. Their newfound connection had deepened their commitment to solving the case. Sherlock paced back and forth, deep in thought. Moriarty's message suggests that he's feeling the pressure. We must take advantage of this and set a trap to catch him. Molly chimed in, her eyes shining with determination. What if we make him believe that we've discovered something vital to his plan? Something he'd want to get his hands on. Irene nodded. Yes, something that would force him to act and reveal himself. We could use the Gilded Gargoyle as bait, claiming to have discovered its true purpose. Watson added, and we could stage the exchange somewhere public, making it more difficult for Moriarty to act without drawing attention to himself. Sherlock stopped pacing and smiled. "Excellent, my friends. We shall set the trap at the British Museum, under the cover of a gala event. With so many people present, it will be impossible for Moriarty to operate unnoticed." The plan was set in motion. Irene and Molly took charge of spreading the false information about the Gilded Gargoyle, while Sherlock, Watson, and Lestrade made preparations for the event at the British Museum. The stage was set for a showdown with Moriarty, and the future of the monarchy hung in the balance. As the gala began at the British Museum, the atmosphere was buzzing with anticipation. The attendees, dressed in their finest attire, mingled among the priceless artifacts, unaware of the danger lurking in their midst. Sherlock, Watson, Irene, Molly, and Lestrade were all in attendance, each playing their part in the elaborate trap for Moriarty. Throughout the evening, they kept a watchful eye on the Gilded Gargoyle, which was prominently displayed in the center of the main hall. They knew that if Moriarty or his agents were present, they would make a move at some point. As the night wore on, a group of performers took the stage, brandishing swords and engaging in a thrilling display of swordsmanship. The guests were captivated by the spectacle, providing the perfect distraction for Moriarty to strike. Sherlock, sensing that the moment was near, positioned himself close to the Gilded Gargoyle. Suddenly, a figure dressed in black emerged from the shadows, lunging towards the artifact. In a split second, Sherlock drew a sword he had concealed beneath his coat and engaged the assailant in a fierce sword fight. The clashing of steel echoed through the museum as Sherlock and the mysterious figure exchanged blow after blow. The guests watched in awe, unsure whether this was part of the performance or something more sinister. As Sherlock's skill and agility matched his opponents, he finally managed to disarm them, revealing the face of one of Moriarty's known associates. Lestrade and his officers quickly apprehended the would-be thief, but they knew that Moriarty himself was still at large. The trap had been partially successful, but the mastermind behind the conspiracy remained elusive.
He's a known associate.
With time running out, Sherlock and his allies needed to uncover Moriarty's plan and put an end to his machinations once and for all. Prompt 19, Sherlock, Watson, and their allies worked to uncover the remaining pieces of Moriarty's plan and bring an end to the conspiracy. As they left the British Museum, Sherlock, Watson, Irene, Molly, and Lestrade discussed the events of the evening and what they had learned. Sherlock was convinced that the attempted theft of the Gilded Gargoyle was just the beginning and that Moriarty had something far more sinister in store. Determined to uncover the full extent of the conspiracy, they began to gather all the pieces of the puzzle. Irene used her contacts in the criminal underworld to gather information, while Molly used her medical expertise to examine the recovered artifacts for any clues. Watson and Lestrade worked together to track down any leads and gather evidence. As the investigation continued, they uncovered a series of cryptic messages and cryptic symbols that seemed to be linked to the conspiracy. The messages hinted at a hidden organization working behind the scenes, and the symbols seemed to be a code that only Sherlock could decipher. Finally, after weeks of tireless work, they had pieced together the full extent of Moriarty's plan. The mastermind behind the conspiracy was planning to overthrow the monarchy and seize control of the government. He had been working for years to gather the resources and allies needed to carry out his plan. With the knowledge they had gathered, Sherlock, Watson, and their allies sprang into action. They worked tirelessly to unravel the last threads of the conspiracy and put an end to Moriarty's machinations once and for all. Prompt 20, the final showdown between Sherlock, Watson, and their allies and Moriarty and his agents. The day of the final showdown arrived. Sherlock, Watson, Irene, Molly, and Lestrade gathered in a secret location, ready to face off against Moriarty and his agents. They had been working around the clock to prepare, and the stakes could not have been higher. As they entered the room, they were met by a group of armed men, all loyal to Moriarty. A tense standoff ensued, with neither side backing down. Suddenly, Moriarty emerged from the shadows, his eyes blazing with anger. "You think you've won, but you haven't," he sneered. "I have an army of followers and resources at my disposal. You can't stop me." Sherlock stepped forward, his voice steady and confident. "We know your plan, Moriarty. We know everything. It's over." Moriarty let out a harsh laugh. "You have no idea what you're up against. But I'll enjoy watching you try." With that, the final showdown began. The room was filled with the sounds of clashing swords, gunfire, and shouting. Sherlock and Watson led the charge, taking on Moriarty and his agents with a ferocity that was unmatched. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the outcome was uncertain. Both sides were evenly matched, and the fate of the monarchy hung in the balance. Prompt 21, the aftermath of the showdown and the aftermath of the conspiracy. As the dust settled, Sherlock and Watson emerged victorious. Moriarty and his agents were defeated, and the monarchy was safe. The conspiracy had been stopped, and the world was a safer place because of their actions. The aftermath of the showdown was not without its consequences. Many had been injured, and some had lost their lives. As they tended to the wounded, Sherlock, Watson, and their allies reflected on the events of the past few weeks. They had been through a lot. The next morning, Sherlock, Watson, Irene, Molly, and Lestrade gathered at Baker Street to discuss their next move. The apprehension of one of Moriarty's associates had provided some valuable information, but they were still no closer to uncovering the full extent of the conspiracy. "We must be careful," Sherlock warned. "Moriarty is cunning and dangerous. He will not rest until he has achieved his goals." Watson suggested, "Perhaps we could track the movements of his known associates and see if there are any patterns or connections that could lead us to him." Molly offered to use her connections at St. Bart's Hospital to gather any information that might be useful. Irene, meanwhile, offered to use her network of spies and informants to keep an eye out for any signs of Moriarty's movements. As the group split up to pursue their respective leads, Sherlock and Watson set out to track the movements of Moriarty's known associates. Their investigation took them to the East End of London, where they discovered a hidden network of underground tunnels and secret passages. Prompt 20, the group discovers a hidden network of underground tunnels. As they delved deeper into the network of tunnels, Sherlock and Watson soon realized that they had stumbled upon a complex network of secret passageways and hidden chambers. They quickly deduced that this was the heart of Moriarty's operations and that he was using the tunnels to move about the city undetected. Making their way through the dark, damp passages, they finally came upon a large chamber, lit by flickering torches. In the center of the room stood a man, his back to them, staring intently at a map spread out on a table. Sherlock and Watson exchanged a look, both realizing that they had finally found Moriarty. They drew their weapons, ready to confront the master criminal, when suddenly Moriarty turned to face them. Prompt 21, Sherlock and Watson confront Moriarty. "So, the great Sherlock Holmes has finally tracked me down," Moriarty said with a smirk. "I must say, I am impressed." "Your reign of terror ends here," Moriarty, Sherlock declared, his voice firm. "Surrender now and face justice." Moriarty chuckled. "Justice? I am beyond justice. I am the master of this city, and soon I will be the master of the world." Watson
Soon I will
stepped
be the master of
forward,
the world.
brandishing his revolver. "You will never get away with this, Moriarty. The game is up." Moriarty sneered. "You think you can stop me? I have an army of followers, ready to do my bidding." "You're too late, Holmes. The die is cast." With a flick of his wrist, Moriarty produced a hidden weapon and fired a shot at Sherlock. Watson acted quickly, diving in front of his friend and taking the bullet. Prompt 22, Watson is injured in the confrontation with Moriarty. As Watson lay on the ground, bleeding and in pain, Sherlock sprang into action. He tackled Moriarty, and the two engaged in a fierce struggle. Despite his injury, Watson managed to keep a watchful eye on the fight, ready to assist his friend if needed. The room echoed with the sound of punches and grunts as the two men battled it out. Finally, Sherlock managed to get the upper hand, and with a swift blow, he knocked Moriarty unconscious. He quickly tied him up, making sure he was secure before turning to Watson. The next morning, Sherlock and Watson visited the prison where the captured associate of Moriarty was being held. They were determined to extract any information that could lead them to the mastermind behind the conspiracy. As they entered the cell, the man sneered at them, little tricks up his sleeve. With his keen intellect and masterful deduction, he quickly uncovered the man's motivations and broke him down. "You're a pawn, just like the rest of us," the man eventually admitted. "Moriarty controls everything, from the criminal underworld to the highest echelons of society. And now he's after the Gilded Gargoyle, the key to his ultimate plan." Sherlock and Watson listened intently, piecing together the puzzle. They knew they were getting close to the truth, but they also knew that they were in grave danger. Prompt 20, Irene and Molly continue their own investigation. Meanwhile, Irene and Molly continued their own investigation, using their connections in high society to gather information. They discovered that the Gilded Gargoyle was more than just a simple artifact, but a symbol of power and influence. As they delved deeper, they uncovered a plot that threatened to destroy the very foundations of the monarchy.
The very
And at the
foundations
center
of
of it all was Moriarty, the Napoleon of crime. Prompt 21, the daring rescue mission is planned. With their separate pieces of the puzzle, Sherlock, Watson, Irene, and Molly convened back at Baker Street to plot their next move. They knew that time was running out and that they needed to act fast. Their plan was simple but dangerous. They would infiltrate Moriarty's hideout and rescue the Gilded Gargoyle, using it as leverage to force him to reveal himself. Prompt 22, the rescue mission begins. Under the cover of darkness, the team set out on their rescue mission. They slipped past the guards and made their way to the secret location, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. As they approached the door, they heard the sound of footsteps. They quickly ducked into the shadows, waiting for the coast to clear. Prompt 23, the team is ambushed by Moriarty's henchmen. But their luck ran out, and they were ambushed by a group of Moriarty's henchmen. The fight was brutal, but the team managed to hold their own, relying on their skills and teamwork. As they pushed forward, they came face to face with Moriarty himself. He was larger than life, a towering figure with piercing eyes and a sly smile. Prompt 24, the final showdown between Moriarty and Sherlock. The room was charged with electricity as Moriarty and Sherlock faced off. It was a battle of wits, with each trying to outmaneuver the other. As they traded insults and bugs, the rest of the team worked to secure the Gilded Gargoyle and get to safety. But they knew that the outcome of the showdown would determine their fate. Prompt 25, the truth about the conspiracy is revealed. In a stunning turn of events, the truth about the conspiracy was finally revealed. It was a tangled web of deceit and treachery, with Moriarty at the center. But with the Gilded Gargoyle in their possession and the support of Lestrade and his officers, the team was able to bring the mastermind to justice and restore order to the kingdom. As Sherlock, Watson, Irene, Molly, and Lestrade gathered in the sitting room of Baker Street, they were all exhausted but elated. The night's events at the British Museum had been both exciting and nerve-wracking, but they had come away with a key piece of evidence that would help them in their quest to bring down Moriarty. It was quite a night, wasn't it, Watson? Sherlock said, settling into his armchair. Indeed it was, old boy, Watson replied with a smile. I never tire of these adventures, do you? Not at all, Sherlock said, lighting his pipe. They keep me on my toes and remind me of why I do what I do. Irene and Molly sat together on the sofa, their hands entwined. I never thought I'd be part of a team like this, Irene said, looking around the room. It's a privilege to work with such talented and dedicated people. Molly nodded, smiling. And I never thought I'd be part part of a team that included a legendary detective like Sherlock Holmes. It's an honor. Lestrade chuckled. You're all a bunch of lunatics, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Here, Watson said, raising his glass in a toast. To the team, and to our next adventure. As they all clinked glasses, Molly grinned mischievously. You know what they say, if you want to catch the biggest fish, you've got to have a big net. And a good sense of humor, of course. Everyone erupted in laughter, the tension of the night dissipating as they shared in the joy of their victory. They knew that the journey ahead would be long and difficult, but they were ready to face it together, with courage, determination, and a healthy dose of humor. Diary of Molly Hooper Diary Entry 1, Setting Sail, the 23rd of March, 1. I had never been on a vacation before, let alone to a tropical paradise like Jamaica. I was beyond excited to spend some time with Irene, who had become a dear friend since our encounter with the dastardly Professor Moriarty. As we boarded the cruise ship, I couldn't help but feel like a kid in a candy store. The sun was shining, the breeze was warm, and the sound of steel drums filled the air. Irene and I had a cabin to ourselves, with a balcony overlooking the crystal blue water. Diary Entry 2, our first mystery, the 24th of March, 1893. Our first full day on the cruise was filled with adventure. We had just settled into our lounge chairs by the pool, when a frantic young man approached us. He explained that his fiancée had gone missing, and he had no idea where she could be. Irene and I sprang into action, determined to solve the mystery. We asked around, gathered clues, and even snuck into the fiancé's cabin to search for any evidence. It wasn't long before we discovered that the fiancée had simply gone on a scenic hike and gotten lost. We were able to track her down and reunite her with her grateful fiancé. Diary Entry 3, Calypso Caper, the 25th of March, 1893. Today was a day filled with excitement and intrigue. Irene and I had just finished lunch when we heard a commotion coming from one of the ship's lounges. We made our way over to find a group of passengers gathered around a beautiful calypso dancer. It seemed that the dancer's prized necklace was missing, and the passengers were accusing each other of theft. Irene and I worked together to uncover the truth. We followed a series of clues, including a missing silver spoon and a broken window, until we finally discovered that the thief was none other than the dancer's own assistant. The necklace was returned, and the calypso dancer was overjoyed. Irene and I received a standing ovation from the grateful passengers. Diary Entry 4, Beach Bumming, the 26th of March, 1893. Today was a much-needed day of relaxation. Irene and I spent the day lounging on the beach, soaking up the sun and enjoying each other's company. We played in the water, collected seashells, and even went on a snorkeling excursion. I had never seen such a vibrant array of sea life before. As the sun began to set, we watched in awe as the sky turned a brilliant shade of orange and pink. It was a moment I will never forget. Diary Entry 5, Reggae Ruckus, the 27th of March, 1893. Tonight was the cruise ship's reggae party, and Irene and I were ready to dance the night away. However, our plans were interrupted when a young woman approached us, tearfully explaining that her prized reggae record had been stolen. She was heartbroken, as the record was a family heirloom passed down from her grandfather. Irene and I sprang into action, determined to recover the missing record. We asked around, gathered clues, and even snuck into the ship's storage room to search for any evidence. It wasn't long before we discovered that we were in trouble with a capital trouble. Sunday, the 15th of April, 1893, the start of an adventure, dear diary. Today is the start of a grand adventure. Irene and I are off to Jamaica for a much-needed vacation. We've both been working non-stop on various cases, and this trip is just what we need to recharge our batteries. I'm so excited to spend time with Irene in this beautiful country. I can't wait to explore the beaches, the mountains, and the vibrant culture. And of course, I'm looking forward to solving a few mysteries while we're here. After all, we are two of the most brilliant detectives in the business. I'm packing my bag as I write this, trying to make sure I have everything I need for this trip. Sunscreen, a swimsuit, my trusty magnifying glass, and a few other essentials. I can hardly contain my excitement. Irene is already waiting for me in the airport. I can't wait to see her smile when I finally arrive. She always has a way of making me feel better, no matter what. I'm so grateful to have her in my life. Well, I must run now. The plane is about to take off, and I don't want to miss it. I'll write again soon, dear diary. Until next time, Molly Hooker. March 20th, 1893, 4:30 p.m. I can't believe it's been a week since Irene and I arrived in Jamaica. Time has just flown by. This place is truly a paradise. The sun, the sea, the people, everything is just perfect. I'm so grateful that Irene invited me on this trip. I never would have thought I could afford a vacation like this. Today we went on a hike in the mountains. It was so beautiful. We saw so many exotic birds and animals, and the view from the top was just breathtaking. On the way back, we stumbled upon a small village that was having some kind of festival. There were so many people, music, and food. We decided to join in and it was just so much fun. I danced with some of the locals and even tried some of the traditional food. It was delicious. Irene and I also found ourselves solving another mystery while we were here. It seems that wherever we go, trouble just finds us. But, I have to admit, I kind of like it. It's like we're on our own little adventure, just the two of us. Irene is such a brilliant detective. I'm always in awe of her skills. But, enough about the adventures and mysteries. Let's talk about the love life. Or lack thereof. I have to admit, I was hoping to find love on this trip, but so far, no luck. But, that's okay. I'm just enjoying spending time with Irene and exploring this beautiful island. Diary entry, the 22nd of March, 1893, 6 p.m. Today we spent the day on the beach. It was just perfect, the sun, the sand, and the sea. We lounged on the beach, swam in the ocean, and even tried some water sports. I have to admit, I'm not the most athletic person, but I gave it my best shot. Irene is a natural, she even tried surfing. Later this evening, we went to a local bar and ended up solving another mystery. It seems that the bar was being haunted by a ghost, and the locals were too scared to go there. But, of course, Irene and I weren't intimidated. We talked to some of the locals and found out that the ghost was actually a former owner of the bar who died and never got a proper burial. We found out where he was buried and held a proper burial ceremony for him. The ghost was finally at peace and the bar was no longer haunted. I have to say, I'm starting to feel like a real-life Nancy Drew. I never thought I would be solving mysteries on a tropical island, but here I am. It's just so much fun, and I'm so glad I'm here with Irene. Diary entry, the 24th of March, 2023, 8 p.m. Today was a day of relaxation. We spent the day at a spa. It was just what we needed after all the excitement of the past few days. We got massages, facials, and even took a yoga class together. It was just so peaceful and calming. In the evening, we went to a local restaurant for dinner. It was just a beautiful setting, with candlelight and live music. We had the most delicious meal and just enjoyed each other's company. As we were walking back to our hotel, we stumbled upon a robbery in progress. Of course, Irene and I jumped into action and were able to stop the robbers and save the day. I have to say, it's starting to feel like we. Diary entry, the 20th of March, 1893, 7 p.m. Sun, sand, and sleuthing, the Jamaica adventure continues. Today has been a whirlwind of excitement and adventure. Irene and I decided to take a break from our usual routine and go on a tropical vacation to Jamaica. We both felt like we needed a change of scenery and a chance to relax and recharge. Little did we know that our break would be filled with mystery and intrigue. We arrived at our resort yesterday and were greeted with warm sunshine and the sound of steel drums playing in the background. We were both excited to spend the next few days soaking up the sun, enjoying the local cuisine, and exploring the island. However, our plans changed quickly when we met our tour guide, a charming young man named Marcus. He told us about a string of strange occurrences that have been happening around the resort. Guests have been reporting missing jewelry and other valuables, and no one has been able to figure out who the culprit is. Irene and I couldn't resist the opportunity to use our detective skills and offered to help Marcus solve the mystery. He was grateful for our assistance, and we spent the rest of the day interviewing guests and gathering clues. Our investigation led us to a hidden room in the resort where we found a pile of stolen items. We also discovered a mysterious map that appeared to be pointing to a location on the island. Irene and I were determined to follow the map and solve the mystery once and for all. We set out on a journey through the lush jungle, facing danger and overcoming obstacles at every turn. It was an exhilarating experience, and I couldn't help but feel grateful to have Irene by my side. As we approached the location on the map, we stumbled upon an old temple hidden deep in the jungle. It was a breathtaking sight, and we couldn't wait to explore it further. We discovered that the temple was being used by a group of smugglers who were using it as a base to store and sell their stolen goods. Irene and I sprang into action, using our wits and skills to outsmart the smugglers and bring them to justice. We returned to the resort with the stolen items, and Marcus was overjoyed. He thanked us for our help and promised to keep us in mind if he ever needed assistance again. As the day came to a close, Irene and I sat on the beach, watching the sun set over the ocean. We reflected on our adventure and laughed about our misadventures. I couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to spend time with Irene and for the memories we had made. I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. The 20th of March, 1893, 10:30 a.m. Adventures in the Caribbean. The sun is shining bright in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and I am feeling more relaxed than I have in a long time. Irene and I arrived here yesterday, and it has been nothing short of a dream come true. The white sandy beaches, crystal clear waters, and the warm sun have been a welcome escape from the London fog. I never knew how much I needed a break until now. Irene and I have been spending our days lounging on the beach, trying trying out the local cuisine and exploring the islands. We went snorkeling yesterday and saw the most incredible sights, colorful schools of fish, coral reefs, and even a few sea turtles. It was breathtaking. But, of course, we couldn't stay away from solving mysteries for too long. We found ourselves in the middle of another case when we met a local artist named Carlos. He had a problem with one of his paintings being stolen and asked for our help in finding it.
There's so many bad dudes in there.
Happy to assist, and we set out to track down the thief. It was a thrilling adventure, as we followed the clues and pieced together the mystery. The thief turned out to be the owner of a local gallery, who had been trying to pass off Carlos' work as his own. With our help, Carlos was able to retrieve his painting and bring the thief to justice. I am so grateful to have Irene by my side on this journey. Not only is she an excellent detective, but she also knows how to make me laugh and keep me calm in the face of danger. I feel like I am finally starting to understand what it means to be in love. We have one more day here in Jamaica, and I plan to make the most of it.
Sure.
I just hope that our next adventure isn't too dangerous, as I would like to return home in one piece. Until next time, Molly Hooper Diary Entry, A Caribbean Adventure. Monday, the 20th of March, 1893. Today was a day of surprises and new experiences. Irene and I decided to take a horseback ride through the lush jungles of Jamaica. The scenery was breathtaking, with lush greenery and vibrant flowers as far as the eye could see. As we rode, Irene and I talked about our lives and shared our hopes and dreams. Our conversation was easy and natural, and I felt a strong connection growing between us. As we rode, we came across a small village that was in distress. The villagers had lost their flocks and livestock to a mysterious illness, and they were struggling to survive. Irene and I decided to help, using our combined knowledge and skills to diagnose the problem and find a solution. It was a challenge, but we worked together seamlessly, and soon the village was back on its feet. As we rode back to our resort, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share this adventure with Irene. Our journey together has been filled with twists and turns, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I am truly blessed to have such a wonderful partner by my side. And then, as we were taking in the breathtaking sunset over the ocean, Irene took my hand and pulled me close. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew what was about to happen. She leaned in, and our lips met in a soft, tender kiss. It was a moment of pure joy and passion, and I felt my heart swell with love. As we pulled away, Irene looked into my eyes and whispered, "I love you, Molly." "I always have." I smiled, tears in my eyes, and replied, "I love you too, Irene." More than anything. It was a moment I will never forget, and I am so grateful to have shared it with the woman I love. Tuesday, the 21st of March, 1893. Last night was truly a night to remember. Irene and I decided to attend a local dance, and the energy was electric. The music was lively and infectious, and soon we were both on the dance floor, moving to the beat. As we danced, I couldn't help but feel the chemistry between us. Our bodies moved in perfect harmony, and I felt a strong connection growing with each step. The room was filled with laughter and joy, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. As the night wore on, Irene and I found ourselves alone on the dance floor. The music slowed, and she pulled me close, our bodies pressed together. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew that this was where I belonged. We danced the night away, lost in each other's arms, and I felt a sense of contentment that I had never experienced before. I am so grateful to have found my soulmate in Irene, and I am looking forward to a lifetime of adventures together. Farewell, Jamaica. Wednesday, the 22nd of March, 1893. Today marks the end of our Caribbean adventure, and I must admit that I am a little sad to be leaving. Jamaica has been a wonderful experience, filled with mystery, romance, and adventure. I will always cherish the memories that I have made here with Irene. As we boarded our ship back to London, we took one last look at the beautiful world we were leaving behind. The 15th of March, 1893. Today was a day of surprises and revelations. Irene and I set out to explore the local market and stumbled upon a mystery that only we could solve. The market was bustling with activity, vendors selling everything from spices to trinkets. We strolled through the stalls, admiring the wares, when we heard a commotion coming from one of the alleyways. Intrigued, we approached to see what was going on. A group of people had gathered around a young woman who was crying and gesturing wildly. We pushed our way through the crowd and listened as she told her story. She was a local artist who had painted a portrait of the famous reggae singer Bob Marley for a local museum. The painting had been stolen, and she was desperate to get it back. Irene and I exchanged a look and knew what we had to do. We asked the artist to take us to the museum where the painting was displayed, and we set out to track down the thief. It was a challenge, but with Irene's quick thinking and my deductive skills, we were able to solve the mystery and retrieve the stolen painting. The artist was overjoyed, and the crowd cheered as we returned the portrait to its rightful place. But the biggest surprise of the day came later, when Irene and I were walking back to our hotel. We stopped to watch the sunset, and as we stood there, the beauty of the moment overcame us. We turned to face each other, and without a word, our lips met in a soft, passionate kiss. It was a moment of pure love and connection, and it left us both breathless. I don't know what the future holds for Irene and me, but in this moment, everything feels possible. Diary entry. The 16th of March, 1893. Today, Irene and I took a trip to the local waterfall. The sound of the water cascading down the rocks was music to our ears, and we were both in awe of the beauty of the place. We climbed to the top of the waterfall and sat down to enjoy the view. As we sat there, hand in hand, Irene turned to me and said, "Molly, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you be mine?" I was taken aback by her declaration, but I knew in my heart that this was what I wanted. I took her hand and replied, "Yes, Irene. I will be yours forever." We sealed our commitment with another kiss, this time more passionate and intense than the one before. We were lost in the moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the love we shared. Diary entry 10. The 17th of March, 1893. Today was our last day in Jamaica, and we spent it exploring the local beaches. We swam in crystal clear waters and lounged on the sand, soaking up the sun and each other's company. As we said goodbye to the island and headed back to our lives in London, I knew that our love story had only just begun. The memories of our time in Jamaica will stay with us forever, and I am grateful for every moment we shared. The 17th of March, 1893. Jamaica. Day 8. I woke up to the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, and I immediately knew that today was going to be a good day. I got out of bed and went to the balcony, where I saw Irene already sitting, enjoying her coffee. I joined her and she offered me a cup of coffee. "Good morning," my dear, she said with a smile.
So,
Good morning, Irene. What's on the agenda for today? I asked, sipping my coffee. I have a surprise for you, she said, a mischievous glint in her eye. I've arranged for us to go on a catamaran tour of the island. We'll visit some of the most beautiful beaches and snorkel in the crystal clear waters. It'll be an adventure. I was over the moon. I love adventures, and the thought of exploring the island with Irene was too exciting to handle. We quickly got ready and headed to the marina, where the catamaran was waiting for us. The captain was a jolly old man with a broad smile, who welcomed us aboard. As we set sail, I couldn't help but feel grateful for this opportunity. Being here with Irene was a dream come true, and I was determined to make the most of it. We visited several stunning beaches, each one more beautiful than the last. We snorkeled in the turquoise waters, marveling at the colorful fish and coral. It was truly breathtaking. As the day went on, I couldn't help but feel a growing affection for Irene. She was smart, strong, and confident, and I was in awe of her. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I wanted to spend more time with her. Finally, as the sun began to set, we returned to the marina. Irene took my hand and led me to a secluded spot on the beach. We sat down and watched the sunset, the colors painting the sky in a brilliant display of reds, pinks, and purples. In that moment, I knew that I wanted to kiss her. I turned to her and she looked at me, and without a word, we leaned in and shared a passionate kiss. It was a moment of pure joy and happiness, and I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. As we broke apart, Irene looked at me.
well, that was an interesting one. Thanks so much for swinging by. Begin by simply listening. Slow down. See just please.
Me too, I replied,
Catch you
smiling
guys
at her.
on the flip side.
We sat there for a while longer, watching the sunset and holding each other close. It was a moment I would never forget, and I was grateful for every moment I got to spend with Irene. The 18th of March, 1893, Jamaica, Day 9, mystery solving on the beach. Today was another exciting day in Jamaica. Irene and I decided to visit a small fishing village, where we heard rumors of a mysterious creature lurking in the waters. As soon as we arrived, we were greeted by the locals, who were eager to tell us their tales of the creature. They described it as a giant serpent with glowing eyes, that could swallow a man whole. Irene and I were skeptical, but we couldn't resist the opportunity to solve the mystery. We set out to investigate, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. Molly Hooper's Diary, Jamaica Adventures Entry, A Night to Remember. The 22nd of March, 1893, 11:30 p.m. Tonight was one of the most magical nights I have ever experienced. Irene and I decided to take a moonlit walk on the beach, and the stars above us shone like diamonds in the sky. The ocean was calm and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore was like music to my ears. As we walked, we talked about everything and anything, from our favorite books to our childhood memories. It was so wonderful to be able to be completely open and honest with someone. As the night went on, the conversation became more personal and emotional. Irene looked into my eyes and said, "Molly, I have something to tell you. I have never felt this way about anyone before, but I have fallen in love with you." My heart skipped a beat and I was so filled with joy that I couldn't find the words to respond. She took my hand and we sat down on the sand, facing the ocean. The moon was shining so brightly that it lit up our faces, and I could see the love and adoration in her eyes. I leaned in and we shared a soft, tender kiss on the lips. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. Afterwards, we sat in silence, holding each other and watching the stars twinkle above us. I knew that from that moment on, my life would never be the same. I was in love with Irene Adler, and I couldn't wait to see what the future held for us. Molly Hooper.